Welcome back. It's season 5 of Serious and Silly with Scott and Sheila. Sheila is off this week, but filling in for her. It's one of her wonderful sport marketing students. She's also an amazing member of our game staff, and she does a couple other things on the side, but that's not as important as what I just mentioned. Allexxa Diab's with us. Allexxa, how's it going? Wonderful.
Good. Thank you for having me.
Allexxa, I cannot believe it's taken 5 seasons for us to get our next guest, but what I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure that this was all perfected because, he is the man when it comes to Montreal media. You've seen him working at TSN Radio, CTV. He is also the voice of the Montreal Alliance, the McGill teams, and more importantly, our teams here at Champlain. His latest project is he is the host of Habs Inside Out. We're super excited. The voice of the Cavaliers webcast, Moe Khan, welcome to Serious and Silly.
Thanks, Scotty. I didn't want to cough as I said hello to you, so it's pulling back on my cough, being nasally right now. So thank you so much for having me on the show. Look forward to this.
The great thing about the show, Mo, is it's authentic. We've had like dogs barking in the background, babies crying. It's, it's part of our high budget here that we have at Serious and Silly.
That's perfect.
Allexxa, start us off.
Perfect. So, Mo, tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to where you are now.
I like long walks. I like to read. So about myself, I've been doing broadcasting since 2006-ish, working my way up from the Team 990 to what is now known as TSN 690, where I kind of, became a football guy for them. And then kind of opened up to become a field reporter. And in between that time, doing play-by-play initially with McGill University. And then I got my big breakthrough, Peter Yiannopoulos, who's a former Champlain alum, who brought me on board for the 2013 men's basketball nationals that were at John Abbott, where we did it. And it was my first time doing play-by-play at that level. I was terrible. And then Vince Amato, the Champlain athletic director, was convinced or bamboozled by my stupidness that he brought me on board for the 2014 Women's Nationals, which was awesome at Champlain College with Coach Pete Yiannopoulos. And then from there, I guess you can see the rest is history when it comes to Champlain and I for what I've done for them and vice versa, what they've done for me, giving me a chance to be part of their program. And, conversing and broadcasting basketball, soccer, men's and women's, football included, and learning about the student athletes who've gone through the doors at Champlain, who moved on to university and beyond.
Yeah, Mo's being super modest. For a basketball game, he'll have about 8 to 10 pages of notes, and there's nobody who puts that much work into an RSEQ game. Best in the business. Mo, we have a lot of young people who obviously want to get into the sports business. Allexxa being a sport marketing and management student, a lot of people in her program. So do you have any advice or tips on, whether it's anything? How do people get on to where you're headed?
Sports, like for broadcasting, it's a cold-hearted business. Excuse me. Sports as a whole is a cold business, right? Because it's what you can do for me now, right? It's not what you know, it's who you know in the business. And people who break into broadcasting or try to break into sports marketing or something along those lines, initially the thought is like, hey, yeah, okay, I'm gonna be this, and this, and be a part of this cool thing. And then when they get into the hopper and they realize, holy bleep, this wasn't what I expected, and you kind of have to grind your way up the ladder. A lot of people kind of, flame out and say, you know what, it's not for me. I'm going to pursue a different avenue. So really, it's about perseverance, patience, and just knocking on doors, shaking people's hands. That's what I was taught at a young age, that regardless who it is, shake that person's hand, because you might encounter that person, he or she, down the road that might say, hey, I remember that person who came up to me when they were a nobody and introduce themselves. So I think it's very important to kind of network out there and just be out there and be prominent in social media. That can make you more flexible, that you have different portfolios to work with, that, hey, Scott O'Brien or Allexxa or Moe Khan, they're really good at this. Let me give them a call and they'll come join our management team, whatever it is. So it's going to be a slow burner initially for those who come into the business. But if you stick with it and you continue to knock on doors, you continue to grind your craft underneath the surface, it works out at the end of the day. And luckily for me, it's paid off in some ways for me, more ways than one. So I'm very lucky to do what I do with what I've done with broadcasting so far.
I mean, go ahead, Allexxa.
Thank you for the advice. Gonna take that and keep that in mind. Let's talk about the Cavaliers. What do you see from our basketball teams this year?
They I was gonna give you a funny answer, but like the women's team, led by George Germanos, defending Quebec champions. They are a loaded roster. They are a team that could run the table in the women's conference this year and repeat and have a very good chance to go to the nationals again. To see what they did last year in a COVID year where things got glitched up and not only Champlain but all of Quebec sports lost essentially 2-3 months of sports, for them to resume with where they were and then to finally achieve the ultimate goal to be a Quebec champion and join that pantheon of Dawson and Saint Foy in particular, and Montmorency, who've been past champions themselves, it kind of solidified Champlain as now no longer the third, fourth, or fifth place team in the conference, but now they are a juggernaut that is looked to staying there permanently here moving forward. So there's no doubt in my mind that this women's team definitely has a great chance to win it this year, provided they stay healthy, provided they continue to click as a team, and their focus is to win one game at a time here. And they got a big one against St. Foy coming up, and then of course Vanney down the road. So if they're able to clean sweep their first semester of games, there's no doubt in my mind that this women's team can do well. For the men's side, look, for Dan Martin, he's rebuilt this team here. They were competitive so far in the first 3-4 games of the year, and seeing how they were against Vanney last Sunday at Champlain, there's reason for optimism that this team could definitely be in that conversation. Not to say championship material yet, but in that conversation of perhaps pulling off an upset or two along the way, and maybe find themselves in the Final Four by the time we hit early March for the Quebec Final Four at Edouard Montpetit.
Yeah, it'll just be nice to have a full season. Like you said, the last 2 or 3 have either been cut or cut short, and this will be the first provincials where everyone is gathered in the same place. And don't be surprised if you see Moe Khan there. So, Mo, obviously you're on Serious and Silly with me and Allexxa. Definitely a career highlight, I know. But I have a question. So you've met a lot of people, a lot of athletes, a lot of stars. Have you had that, like, you know how broadcasters are supposed to be neutral? Have you had that wow moment either in one of your broadcasts or one of someone you met? What's been one of the highlights of your career?
I think initially there's a bit of fanboy, fangirl when you meet someone like, oh my God, it's so-and-so. But then you can't get used to it because you're doing your job, right? That's what it is in our line of work, is that you're doing your job. Yeah, there's no question that there are those who do have friendships with those outside of the media world with these athletes. I do have friendships with those who played a high level football or high level basketball, but I separate that from what I do for a living. And I think from a highlight perspective, if I had to think of one, I'm just trying to think of something off my head here. I'll give you a good one. So when I was covering the Canadiens for TSN 690 back in 2019, it was April 2019, the Habs were out and they were playing the Tampa Lightning. And so my routine at Bell Center games is that I always go to the washroom, to do number one, right? At the end of the second intermission, going to the third period. I don't want to go because I have to be in the locker room by the end of the third period. So I'm there doing my thing, right? So 2 stalls over, there's this dude that comes in, and he's doing his thing. And then he goes, hey, man, how you been? I'm like, I'm good, man. And then he goes, how's the basketball season going so far? I go, hey, you know what? This guy knows who I am. He must have watched Champlain games or McGill games, right? And that's going pretty good, whatever. But then I realized, I go, wait a minute. This guy doesn't think I'm a broadcaster. I think he thinks I'm a parent to some kids who play basketball. So then a third person walks in and says, hey, Julian, how you been? I'm like, wait a minute. Julian, I go, wait a minute, is this Julian Breezewell, the GM of the Tampa Bay Lightning? So I Google his picture, and lo and behold, it was Julian Breezewell, who thought I was a basketball parent than a basketball play-by-play voice. So that was a story that, was kind of funny in its own right. And of course, Tampa being what they are, winning 2 cups in the last 3 years. But there's a lot of stories that do happen, which are more R-rated. So I'm not too sure this fits the Champlain profile of what you guys want to have be presented to the student body and, of course, the teachers in Champlain College.
It's good advice. So Allexxa, even though I have the Champlain's #1 rated rep series, she just sees me as another person who, puts on one shoe at a time every day. So I understand your humbleness, Mo.
So you spoke about the Habs. Tell us about your new gig with the Habs.
I have no idea what I'm doing. No, it's a fun, awesome role. So Julie McKenzie, who is a good dear friend of mine, got himself an awesome job with the Athletic in Calgary. He was the predecessor to that role as a host of Hockey Inside Out. And I just reached out to Stu Cowan of the Gazette, who, by the way, his son did go to Champlain College for a couple of years. So there's that Champlain connection with Stu Cowan. And I said, Stu, hey, can I just throw my name to the hopper? And he forwarded to his bosses. And I was thinking, okay, I didn't hear back from them. It took about 4 or 5 weeks. In early September, I get a call from Dave Peters, who oversees the Hockey Inside Out process and the project itself. And he said, hey, man, and I thought it was an interview. They offered it to me outright. And I said, sure, let's rock and roll with it. And it's been awesome where, I'm just kind of quarterbacking the show with 3 great minds I get to work with Stu Cowan, Andrew Berkshire, and Rick Green, former Montreal Canadiens defenseman. And it's just banter about Habs talk. And that's what people love in the city's Montreal Canadiens talk. And it's been a blast doing it with these guys and working with a great team at Hockey.io. And hopefully it grows and grows and becomes even more popular. If the team does really well, it does really bad, it benefits us because there'll be more eyeballs watching this show for the duration of the season.
Yeah, I've checked it out. It's really good. And I will definitely put the link in the bio. Last thing, Mo, your good friend Sean Main, who I saw earlier this morning, he said, when I told him you were going to be on the show, he said, why don't you want any views? Because he was on the show earlier.
Was he? I didn't know.
Who will outview who? Will you outview Sean Main, or will Sean Main outview you?
How many views did he have? Minus 10?
He actually had negative views, yeah.
So I will outview him. The moment you post this link live, it's over. It's a wrap. I'll post up on all different media platforms. It's a wrap.
Speaking of media platforms, Mo, if people want to follow you, which I do on Twitter or Instagram, what's your handles? How can people follow you?
Well, it's a universal name, Moe Khan 19. So MOE KHAN, the 19, all one word. Moe Khan 19 for Twitter and Instagram. So follow me. If you want to follow me on IG, I'm posting more stuff. Allexxa loves my stuff on Instagram. So definitely follow me on those 2 items. And of course, Hockey.io, I'm on that. And of course, Champlain, our next broadcast. I forget when our next broadcast is. I think it's the Soccer Nationals coming up. So I'll be there the entire week. I think it's 13 games, Scott, we're doing, or 14 games?
Yeah, the Soccer Nationals that have passed, Mo, by the time this airs, yeah.
Oh, it's true. So I would have done 14 games, right?
We'll have done 14 games, and we'll tape 2 things at the end, whether we won or whether we didn't win. And we'll play whichever one.
I'll be there. I'll be there.
Works.
Rain, wind, shine, whatever it is, cold, warmth, I'll be there.
Yeah. Honestly, lots of fun today, but in all seriousness, Mo is the best. There's no one who works harder in this business than him, and just follow and watch any of his games. And yeah, Mo, you're the best, man.
Hey, thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it for having me on the show.
Oh, actually, you're the second best. Sorry.
Oh, she's on the show?
I'm the second best. At least I'm second best to Mo. You know what? I take that.
Well, on my list, it's Scott, Robert, Shaw, Antonio, Nick, the Champlain mascot, and then
we don't have enough time, Mo, to get to where you need to.
Exactly.
Thanks, guys.
Always be good, guys.